Hi, you're welcome to today's class. Okay, we are going to be talking about plant taxonomy. Plant taxonomy. Okay, talking about taxonomy, if we all remember, when we are being introduced newly into biology and we are taking through the branches of biology, we were told that taxonomy is one of the branches of biology. So, what's taxonomy? Taxonomy means what? It's simply a system of classification of living organisms. But today we are being specific. We're talking about plant taxonomy. So, what is plant taxonomy? Plant taxonomy is that branch of biology that involves the identification, the naming, and then the classification of organisms. That is the classification of plants into various groups based on their characteristics. The last time we talked about different classification of plants, we talked about the talophyta, we talked about the pteridophyta. What made you to call it a pteridophyta or talophyta or gymnosperms is because of certain characteristics, right? Okay, so that's what classification is all about. So taxonomy is that branch of biology that is plant taxonomy rather. It is that branch of biology that involves the identification, the naming, and then the classification of plants into various groups based on their characteristics. I hope that is gotten. So the next thing we are going to be looking at now is plant nomenclature. Nomenclature. Nomenclature itself is all about naming. So when you attach plant to it, what is plant nomenclature? Plant nomenclature is what the scientific system of naming plants. Do you get it? Plant nomenclature, it is the scientific system of naming plants. Normally, plants are normally identified by two names, the common name and then the scientific name. Let's take for instance a maize plant. Maize plant, the name maize is a common name, but when you talk about the scientific name, it is what? Z maize. Do you get that? That's the scientific name of maize, but maize itself is what? The common name. So we have dealt now with what? Plant nomenclature. It is the scientific system of naming plants. Do you get that? So the next thing we are going to be looking at now is plant classification. Plant classification. It is what? The process of grouping plants, or it is the process of placing plants into different categories based on some what common characteristics they have in common. Like I said the last time, we looked at various classification of plants. We looked at gymnosperms, we looked at pteridophyta. Yes, we also looked at their characteristics. It was through their characteristics we were able to say, okay, this plant possesses so characteristics, thereby they fit in to be put into certain groups. So let me run through what I said again. We have talked about taxonomy, which we said is a branch of biology that deals with what? Identification, naming, and classification of what? Plant groups. Do you get that? So we now looked at plant nomenclature, which is what? The systematic, the scientific system of naming plants. And then we looked at what? Plant classification. It is what? The act of grouping plants into groups based on their common characteristics. I hope that is gotten. So the next thing I'm going to look at now is what? Plant taxonomy and systematics. Taxonomy and systematics. They look alike, but they are not entirely the same thing. Yes, they are similar, but they are entirely what? Different thing altogether. So do you get that? Taxonomy and systematics. Yes, both of them are branches of biology. Taxonomy and systematics, they are both what? Branches of biology. But the difference is that taxonomy has to do with what? Identifying, naming, and classification of organisms based on certain characteristics. But systematics is more in depth. It is more broad than taxonomy. Yes, it can be said that systematics is taxonomy plus evolutionary what trend or plus evolution, because systematics is a branch of biology that does what? It studies the diversity of organisms. Yes, we have various diversity of organisms. Then it now looks at what? Their evolutionary relationship. At certain stages in their life or in their existence, they had a similar what? Origin. They had some similar features. That is what evolution. Evolution already is what? The changes in a species over time. Do you get that? So systematics has to do with what? Taxonomy plus what? Evolution. So in other words, we put it as systematics is that branch of biology that studies what? Diversity of organisms and their evolutionary relationship. That is how they are related through evolution. Okay, so we have come to the end of today's class. Bye and see you all.